Gaming Wars just got a whole lot more interesting. The first Nvidia Shield Portable had my curiosity, and now the Nvidia Shield Console has my attention.
Afternoon. City daylight time will be.
Nvidia has been slowly transforming itself from a hardware designer to a consumer platform owner. So in this video, let's see how the Nvidia Shield hopes to change the PC gaming world. Platforms have always been the center of gravity in terms of technological innovation, and platform owners have always had the most power. And while we all know about hardware, it's important to understand what exactly is a platform. Because in computing today, platforms are the most valuable piece of technological real estate. For example, Microsoft has Windows and Xbox, while Sony has the PlayStation and Valve has Steam, and Apple has iOS and OS X, while Google owns Android and Chrome. All these platforms are places where software can run, but within constraints that are defined by the platform owners. Now, many companies have tried to make platforms.
They tried and failed?
They tried and died.
For example, Palm tried with Palm OS, BlackBerry had its own platform, and OnLive went from being a gaming platform valued at $1.8 billion to being sold off for about $5 million a couple years ago. So at a minimum, every platform must have these basic parts. The hardware needs to be secure, yet flexible and powerful enough to support the creativity of third-party developers and content creators. The infrastructure or network services have to be consistent and reliable enough to deliver app and media content reliably. And the main piece is really the content, because people buy into platforms for the movies, for the music, for the app experiences. But equally important is the business model, because there really needs to be a clear vision for platform owners and developers to make money in order to support future innovations and investments. And last but not least, every successful platform needs a growing user base of customers. Now, Nvidia has managed platforms before, designing hardware and writing software drivers for PC game developers and gamers. But it skipped the 8th generation of consoles, which is really surprising for a company that prides itself as advancing the craft of visual computing. Instead, it took a risk fighting the phone wars, but unfortunately most tablets and smartphones decided to go with Qualcomm's Snapdragon instead. So while Nvidia did great in PCs and not so good in mobile, let's now learn how the Nvidia Shield is helping the company fight for the living room. How exactly does Nvidia hope to take over the TV? The TV business is a multi-billion unit market where every household practically considers it a necessity. But like mobile before iOS and Android, and like PCs before Windows, the TV experience is really fragmented. Today there's some streaming devices that hope to bring some order to this experience, but they're not powerful enough to support more complex and creative software experiences. So let's see how Nvidia hopes the Shield Console will be a stepping stone for a new platform, all for under $200. The first piece is hardware. While the Tegra hasn't been too popular in mobile, it has been getting some new life in Shield devices. The Shield Portable was Nvidia's first handheld console that supported both Android and streaming PC games. The Shield tablet gave Nvidia the chance to test out the K1 and manufacturer-independent controllers, and the Tegra X1 inside the Shield console is powerful enough to support streaming 4K video and 1080p gaming. It's actually perfect timing considering that 4K TVs are about to go mainstream this year. The Shield is the first 4K 60Hz Android TV device that supports both Google's VP9 and H.265 formats. And I think that's really important because in the same way that cable and Blu-ray help the transition to HDTV, 4K streaming is going to motivate the transition to 4K and UHD. Now, for TVs, the remote is really the most important input device. Because the optional remote supports bidirectional Bluetooth, it will be able to both send and receive data. To send data, the remote has a sliding volume control, and one click activates the microphone to activate Google Voice. It'll also receive audio so that when you plug in a set of headphones, you can watch TV without disturbing anybody. The standard Shield controller lasts about 40 hours between charges and relies on Wi-Fi Direct to support one-click voice command, one-click voice search, and streaming audio to headphones, just like with the remote control. The 16 gigabytes of internal storage can expand through a micro SD expansion card slot. And for home theaters, it supports 7.1 surround sound and has an IR receiver to support third-party remotes. But for streaming games, the most critical feature will be latency. Nvidia recommends at least 15 megabits for 720p, 50 megabits for 1080p, and probably higher than that for stable 4K streams. And to help with the streaming, you can either hook it up with Ethernet or 802.11ac Wi-Fi, and it has a USB port for extra expansion in the future. The second part of a platform is infrastructure. Now here NVIDIA has been working on virtualizing its graphics businesses for a while, offering virtualized GPU services for graphics-intensive businesses. And the GRID was originally marketed to third-party companies that wanted to get into the streaming business. But for gamers, its own cloud gaming services just went live this past November. So now all Shield devices can instantly stream and play games. A GRID server loads and renders the game and sends out the video output to your device, while your input controls from your controller will be sent back to the server. All this happens over the internet. And recently, with the FCC protecting net neutrality, providers will no longer be able to discriminate against data. But for me, the most interesting feature has been the Shield's local networking capabilities. It supports both Plex and XBMC to pull media from local media servers. And GameStream is a local version of the GRID. It works with PC games you already own and allows you to stream those games from your PC to your Shield device. But it does require a PC with an Nvidia graphics card to work. The third and most important piece is the content. To help with this, Shield taps into the most popular operating system in the world, Android. Both Android TV and Google Play have millions of apps and media content available for purchase or streaming. It syncs with Google services like Google Music and Photos, and it supports Chromecast natively. Out of the box, it'll support voice search to make content discovery a lot easier so that you could easily bounce from movies like The Avenger to other content starring Scarlett Johansson. And while it's set to play Android games right out of the box, NVIDIA really wants developers to do more. For example, NVIDIA really wants developers to upload their games to the GRID to be streamed, and hopefully in the future port their games to run natively on the Shield console. To help with performance, the X1 has 256 Maxwell GPU cores and 3 GB of RAM, effectively doubling the performance compared to the Xbox 360 while using 80% less power. In other words, it natively plays games like Crysis 3 and Borderlands the pre-sequel. But before developers jump in, they need to make sure they can make some money. After all, they're not going to commit to do a lot of work unless they know they can make a return on their investment. Now, cloud gaming isn't something new. OnLive tried to do this and failed, and Sony's PlayStation Now is able to stream games to its consoles and TVs. No need to download a game or pay for a single title. It works for movies, and it works for music, so why not work for games? Imagine scrolling through a list of games and tapping and playing almost immediately. Now on the other side, publishers and content creators have always made more money by selling directly to consumers. Right now, Steam and consoles are definitely more profitable for developers. So the company is hoping that publishers will remaster their previous games in their back catalogs to work on Nvidia Shield. Now GRID has been free so far for Shield devices, but in June the company is going to split it up into 2 different tiers. You'll have the 720p tier that'll be lower cost and the 1080p higher premium subscription. Today the company offers unlimited play for over 40 games, and you can even purchase games with their Steam codes attached. So in the end, NVIDIA needs to prove that it can make money in order to support building out more servers and to reimburse developers. And last but not least, the most important part of any powerful platform are the customers, the user base. Now, this device isn't for all gamers. It's targeted towards people who want something more than just casual gaming, but don't want the commitment that comes with consoles. NVIDIA wants to make gaming more accessible by focusing on this middle section of the market and removing a lot of the friction that comes with installing and playing games. Click and Play truly is the holy grail of this new platform. In terms of design, it has this really modern look that looks different from every angle, and even though it has a fan, the company claims it'll be whisper quiet. But more impressive to me was how thin this thing is. Now there's some competition out there like the PlayStation TV, the Amazon Fire TV, and who could ever forget the Ouya? But the most interesting to me is Valve's new Steam Link, because it allows you to stream games from either an Nvidia or an AMD-based PC. And on the high end in the living room, we have the Xbox One and the PS4. So the Shield is really positioning itself as a premium streaming device, but just a couple steps below a console. But the most benefit will probably go to PC gamers who've always wanted to have the experience of just laying down on the couch and playing a PC game on your living room TV. It's launching with 50 titles that'll be available from NVIDIA's GRID, and you'll have Google Play and Android TV available right out of the box. For me, overall, the Shield is really interesting. It's positioned as a premium streaming device, being the first to offer 4K streaming at 60 frames per second. It's flexible enough to stream PC games to the living room, and it's powerful enough to handle and run natively a back catalog of games. But for big success, the Shield is really going to need some exclusives. some reasons for people to go out and buy the device. They don't have to be expensive AAA titles, but they have to be something that's highly replayable, something that people just can't put down. Nvidia needs games that will keep people coming back to their own digital frontier.
Afternoon. City daylight time will be.
Just wanted to give a quick shout out to Master Bryce for letting me know about this. It's really an important event, I think, because we're getting to see how a platform is formed at the beginning. There's very few events that we get to see all of this come together for a company. Now that Nvidia's really set the stake in the ground for what a living room TV console could do, a lot of other companies I'm sure will follow suit, which is good because you get more innovation, more competition, and more interesting things come out of situations like that. Please let me know what you think in the comments, any feedback, what your thoughts and opinions are. Perhaps I'll try to get my hands on one of these to try it out. I did a video about Intel's Compute Stick, so if you want to check that out, you can see how Microsoft and Intel are working together to do something similar to take over the living room TV. But mostly thank you guys for watching this video as we continue to explore how technology changes the world.